Welcome to this deep dive. Today we're going to be looking closer at Ramkrishna Forgings Ltd.
Yeah.
And you've sent us quite the interesting set of sources. We've got the company's announcement to the Bombay Stock Exchange and the National Stock Exchange of India.
Right.
And we've got a press release and even their Q3 and 9M FY25 earnings presentation.
Wow.
So you want the whole picture. And I got to say, I'm kind of curious myself.
It's really smart to look at all these together.
Yeah.
Because we'll get, a clearer image of where the company is and where they're headed, their goals and stuff.
Okay, so for anyone out there who might not know, let's start with the basics.
Right.
What exactly does Ramkrishna Forgings do?
They're a top supplier of forged and machined products.
Oh.
So that they're actually, think of them as like the backbone of some really important industries.
Oh.
Automotive, railways, oil and gas, you name it.
Wow.
Anything that needs like really high quality, durable metal components.
Right.
Ramkrishna Forgings is probably involved in there somewhere.
Oh, that's interesting. So they're kind of like these unsung heroes of the industrial world.
Yeah, you could say that. And their latest earnings report shows they're doing pretty well on that front.
Okay.
Their revenue is up, year over year, which is always a good sign.
Yeah, that's impressive, especially considering what we saw in the press release about that there was a decrease in domestic commercial vehicle volumes.
Right, right.
So it seems like even when parts of their traditional markets are struggling, they're finding ways to grow.
Well, that's a really good observation.
Yeah.
It speaks to their strategic diversification. They're clearly not putting all their eggs in one basket.
Right.
And it makes me wonder, is this growth coming from other product segments, or are they tapping into these international markets a bit more aggressively?
Right.
Let's keep our eyes peeled for some clues in the earnings presentation.
Yeah, let's do that now in the company announcement.
Okay.
There was this mention of a new casting plant.
Yeah.
Plant 8 in Jamshedpur. So what's the deal with that?
So this new plant is a pretty big deal.
Okay.
We're talking about a capacity of 30,000 metric tons per year.
Wow.
Which is, and it's expected to be operational by June 2025.
Oh.
So it signals their commitment to the automotive casting space.
So they're not content with their success. They're investing pretty heavily in future growth.
Right.
Why casting, though, specifically?
Well, casting actually allows them to move into a higher margin product segment.
Okay.
So they could reduce their dependence on the lower margin forging products.
So it's a smart way to increase profitability.
Vehicle market.
Right.
Yeah.
About, the plants and the physical things. They're also bringing on some talent. I noticed that they appointed Mrs. Sharita Basu Day as an independent director.
Well, she's quite the powerhouse, isn't she? Founder of a successful law firm. Lots of experience in government policy. Champion for ease of doing business.
Right.
I mean, her expertise, her being on board, suggests that they are, really aiming for strong governance and strategic alignment with India's business landscape.
So it sounds like they're setting themselves up for the long term.
Long-term success, absolutely.
Now, speaking of taking care of business, they're also taking care of their employees.
Yes.
The announcement mentions that they are granting stock options and allocating shares to the Employee Welfare Trust.
Yeah, that's actually really smart.
Yeah.
Creating that sense of ownership and shared success.
Right.
It can do wonders for employee morale motivation, which then, of course, benefits the company.
Now, let's talk about their global ambitions.
Yeah.
That new facility in Monterrey, Mexico.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds like a big move.
It's a huge step.
Yeah.
And it's secured by this take-or-pay agreement with the North American customer.
Right. So that means that customer is committed to buying a certain volume no matter what.
Okay.
It's a very clever way to minimize risk when you're entering a new market.
Makes sense.
And it guarantees a steady revenue stream.
So they're not just dipping their toes in the water, they're diving right in.
They are jumping in head first, that's right.
And what's really interesting is that they have plans to add hot forging capacity to that Mexican facility later on.
That phased approach, it's strategic.
Yeah.
Starting with machining, securing that revenue, and then expanding, strategically into hot forging.
Okay.
I mean, it speaks to their planning and their vision.
Yeah, speaking of strategic moves, that joint venture with Titagar Rail Systems to manufacture forged wheels for Indian railways, that's a big undertaking.
That's massive.
Yeah.
We're talking 228,000 wheels per year.
Wow.
Can you even imagine?
No, I can't.
But seriously, this project highlights Ramkrishna Forgings' ambition to diversify.
And win these major contracts in India. It aligns perfectly with the government's push for infrastructure development.
Right, especially modernizing the railways.
Exactly.
So it's kind of a win-win. They get a prestigious project.
Yeah.
It contributes to India's economic growth.
Right.
Before we move on to the financials, though, I
Okay.
want to touch on something that really stood out to me in that earnings presentation,
Yeah.
and that is their commitment to sustainability.
Oh, that's a great point.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, they've set a goal of net zero by 2040.
It's an ambitious target,
That's a big goal.
but they are taking concrete steps to achieve it.
Like what?
Well, like transitioning to renewable energy.
Oh.
They've commissioned a lot of solar rooftop capacity and signed contracts for even more renewable energy sources.
So it goes beyond just their own operations.
It does. They're implementing what's called an ESG supplier assessment framework
Okay.
to make sure that their suppliers are also aligning with their goals.
So it's like a comprehensive approach.
Very much so.
Yeah, and it really shows they're serious about this.
It's a smart move, not just ethically,
Right.
but from a business perspective, because customers and investors are demanding it, and Ramkrishna Forgings is positioning itself as a leader in this space.
Yeah, it's clear that they're not just about growth,
Mm-hmm.
for growth's sake.
Yeah.
They're making strategic moves to diversify their products,
Right.
deepen their global presence,
Mm-hmm.
operate responsibly.
Absolutely.
Let's delve into their financials next and see if their performance is matching their ambitions.
Let's dive in.
Okay.
The numbers will tell us a lot about whether their strategies are working.
Lots to unpack here. Okay, so let's talk numbers.
Right.
What are some of the key takeaways
Yeah.
from their Q3 and 9M FY25 results?
Well, first thing that really jumps out is their revenue growth.
Okay.
So they achieved a year-over-year increase of 5.5% in Q3
Okay.
and 6.5% for the 9 months that ended December 31st, 2024.
That's pretty solid growth,
It is.
especially considering that dip we talked about in the domestic commercial vehicle volumes.
Right. It really suggests that they are successfully diversifying those revenue streams
Okay.
and becoming less reliant on any single market.
Okay, that's reassuring.
Yeah.
But their EBITDA growth seems to be lagging a little behind the revenue.
Yeah. It is something to keep an eye on.
Okay.
The presentation actually mentions some headwinds with input costs,
Okay.
specifically the volatility of steel prices.
Right. So they're feeling a little squeezed on margins.
Kinda, yeah. But they are taking steps to mitigate that pressure.
Okay.
They're implementing some cost optimization measures.
Okay.
They're improving operational efficiency, and they're strategically passing on some of those price increases
Right.
to customers.
So it's a bit of a balancing act.
It is.
Yeah. Okay.
But they seem to be, managing it.
Now their PIT saw a significant jump,
Yes.
21% in the third quarter, and almost 49% for the 9 months. That's hard to ignore.
Yeah, but as we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
it's important to understand, the reasons behind that.
Right. Right.
So while the top line growth is contributing, that jump is significantly influenced by that one-time gain
Yeah.
from the sale of Global India Services.
Okay.
So focusing on the operating profit will give us a clearer picture
Okay.
of their core performance.
So take that with a grain of salt, but overall,
Yeah.
it seems like a healthy
I would say so.
performed.
They're managing costs, they're generating profits,
Right.
and they have the resources to pursue their growth strategy.
Now, speaking of which,
Yeah.
that earnings presentation really delves into their diversification strategy,
It does.
especially expanding into those new product categories.
Yes.
They're not just adding things at random, are they?
No, not at all.
It seems like they're moving up the value chain.
They are.
Give me an example of what you mean.
Well, look at their automotive offerings.
Okay.
So they've been really strong in the commercial vehicle sector,
Right.
but now they're setting their sights on passenger vehicles
Oh.
and even two-wheelers.
Wow. So from big trucks to family cars and motorcycles.
Right.
That's a big leap.
It is. It allows them to tap into these much larger markets
Okay.
that have potentially higher margins.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, they're exploring new components and assemblies, so it's further increasing their value proposition.
So they're kind of becoming more of a one-stop shop for those big automakers.
That's very appealing to them.
Yeah.
because it streamlines their supply chain
Right.
and gives them a reliable partner.
And this diversification isn't limited to automotive, is it?
Not at all. They highlight their forays into off-road applications, farm equipment, even energy.
Right.
I mean, you've got bucket teeth for excavators,
Wow.
crankshafts for tractors, specialized components for oil and gas.
They really are in everything.
It's pretty remarkable.
It's really interesting.
It is.
It's like they're becoming this essential player that nobody's really heard of.
It's a brilliant strategy.
Yeah.
By diversifying across sectors.
Right.
They're mitigating risk and creating these, multiple avenues for growth.
So they're less vulnerable to downturns in any single market.
Yeah.
Their international expansion is another big part of their growth.
It is.
They've already got a pretty impressive footprint around the world.
They do. They're serving customers in over 20 countries
Wow.
with strong footholds, in North America and Europe.
Right.
And their growth strategy specifically mentions exploring new markets.
So where do you see them focusing their efforts?
Well, they already have operations in Mexico,
Right.
right? Which gives them a strategic advantage in North America.
Yeah.
So they could expand further into the U.S. or maybe explore opportunities in South America.
And Europe seems like a natural area for growth,
It does, yeah.
given they're already there.
And let's not forget Asia.
Right.
I mean, with India as their home base,
Yeah.
they're really well positioned to tap into the rapidly growing economies in Southeast Asia.
But expanding in multiple markets at the same time, I mean,
It is a lot to manage.
that can be challenging.
It can.
So how are they ensuring that they don't overstretch themselves?
Well, they've shown that they have a really disciplined approach.
Okay.
They're not rushing into anything.
Right.
They carefully evaluate the opportunities. They secure those partnerships.
Okay.
They build a sustainable foundation for the
Yeah.
long term.
And they're not afraid to make acquisitions
No.
when it makes sense. Like
Yeah.
when they acquired ACL,
That was a smart one.
which gave them access to the tractor.
Yeah, and passenger vehicle segments.
It's like they're playing chess, strategically positioning themselves for success.
It's a great analogy.
Yeah.
They're thinking several moves ahead,
Right.
anticipating those market trends,
Yeah.
and making calculated decisions.
Speaking of calculated decisions,
Yeah.
we should talk about their inorganic growth strategy.
All right, let's unpack that.
So what exactly is their approach to inorganic growth?
They're actively looking to acquire companies that offer strategic benefits.
Okay.
Not just, to get bigger,
Right.
but to get smarter.
So it's about acquiring companies that complement their existing capabilities,
Exactly.
expand their product portfolio,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
give them access to new markets or technologies.
Precisely.
Okay.
A really strategic way to accelerate growth
Right.
and gain that competitive edge.
So they're not content with just that organic growth.
No.
They're willing to make bold moves to really solidify their position
Exactly.
as a leader.
As a global leader.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
It is.
Do you have any guesses as to who they might be targeting
It's tough to say.
for their next acquisition?
But I would speculate that they might be looking for companies that specialize in advanced materials.
Okay.
Maybe lightweighting technologies or even electric vehicle components.
I mean, those are all areas
Go up
where
a little bit.
demand is just going to increase.
Exactly. So by acquiring companies with that kind of expertise, they can position themselves at the forefront of innovation in this industry.
So it's about being proactive, anticipating the future, and making those moves to shape it.
Exactly. And taking those calculated risks
Right.
to achieve ambitious goals.
Yeah, risk is inherent in any growth strategy.
Yeah.
But they seem to be approaching it
Yeah.
with a balance of caution and ambition.
A healthy balance, I'd say.
You're not afraid to make big bets, but they're not reckless.
No.
They're doing their due diligence,
Mhm.
carefully evaluating those opportunities, making sure any acquisition aligns with their vision.
Absolutely. And their track record suggests they're pretty good at it.
Yeah, they have successfully integrated acquisitions.
They have.
It's
It's a testament to their strong leadership
right.
and their ability to really execute that strategy.
It gives them a significant advantage
It does.
in a really competitive market.
It does.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot.
Yeah.
Product diversification,
Yeah.
international expansion, strategic acquisitions,
Yeah.
inorganic growth strategy.
Mhm.
It's clear that Ramkrishna Forgings
Yeah.
is a company on the move.
Absolutely.
They're pushing the boundaries, they're innovating.
They're expanding their reach.
And they're doing it all
Yeah.
while maintaining that commitment to sustainability
Yeah.
and responsibility.
It's impressive.
Yeah. It makes you wonder what's next for them.
What's next? What other tricks do they have up their sleeve?
Yeah, those are great questions.
They are.
And we'll be keeping a close eye on them
Yeah.
in the coming months and years. But before we get too ahead of ourselves,
Okay.
let's bring it back to the present. We talked about their financials earlier,
Yeah.
but let's dive into those details
Good idea.
a bit further.
The numbers can tell us so much, right,
Yeah.
about where they are and where they might be headed.
So we've seen that they're financially sound,
Yeah.
but no company operates in a vacuum, right?
Right.
So what are some of those external factors or challenges that they might face going forward?
Well, the forging industry is really competitive,
Good.
both domestically and internationally.
Mm-hmm.
So Ramkrishna Forgings has to constantly innovate and find ways to,
Yeah.
be more efficient to stay ahead.
So it's like a constant race to the top.
Yeah, you could say that
Right.
they had to keep refining their processes, managing costs,
Right.
developing those new products that meet their customers' needs.
And we talked about the volatility
Yes.
of raw material prices, especially steel.
Oh, that's a big one.
That must be a constant headache for a company like this.
It's huge. Steel prices can fluctuate
Wow.
so much.
Mm-hmm.
And since that's a key input for them,
Right.
those swings can directly impact their margins.
So a really robust risk management strategy is crucial.
Absolutely.
Okay.
They have to anticipate and mitigate that impact as much as possible.
And then there's the global economic landscape. I
Yeah.
mean, a slowdown in key markets
Yeah.
could really hurt the demand for their products.
Of course. And, having that diversified customer base
Right.
helps spread the risk.
Okay.
But they still need to be prepared
Yeah.
for those potential headwinds.
So they need to be incredibly adaptable,
Yes.
agile.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And let's not forget about those geopolitical risks out there.
Right.
Trade wars,
Mhm.
political instability.
Yeah.
These events can, disrupt supply chains and
Sounds
create
like that.
uncertainty.
So staying informed and having contingency plans is pretty vital.
Absolutely. But,
Yeah.
amidst all of these potential challenges,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really important to remember that Ramkrishna Forgings
Yeah.
has a long history of overcoming obstacles.
Right. They've been around for a while.
Over 40 years.
Wow.
They've weathered economic storms,
Mm-hmm.
adapted to technological disruptions. I mean,
They've shown resilience.
they have, and I'm confident that they have the leadership and the experience
Mm-hmm.
to navigate whatever challenges lie ahead.
So for investors who are listening,
Yeah.
what's the bottom line?
Okay.
What are the key takeaways from all of this?
Well, Ramkrishna Forgings is operating in a growing market.
Okay.
The demand for these forged components is only going to increase
Right.
as industries like automotive, infrastructure, energy all keep expanding.
So that's a solid foundation.
It is.
Okay.
They've also got that diversified product portfolio,
Right.
growing global reach, and as we discussed,
Yeah.
they're not afraid of strategic acquisitions.
And their commitment to sustainability, I mean,
Hugely important these days.
investors are looking at that.
They are.
Okay, so of course there are risks,
Of course, there always are.
as with any investment,
Right.
but it seems like they're pretty well equipped to handle those.
I would agree. So if you're out there and you're looking for a company with growth potential,
Mm-hmm.
a strong management team, and that commitment to sustainable practices,
Yeah.
Krishna Forgings is definitely worth a look.
It sounds like they've got a bright future ahead of them.
I think so.
Well, I think we've covered a lot today.
We have.
Their latest news,
Mhm.
growth strategy, financial performance, and even kind of peered into the future a little bit.
It's been a really fascinating deep dive. I've learned a lot.
Good, good.
Yeah.
And to you, our listener, thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
We hope you found this exploration of Ramkrishna Forgings insightful.
Engaging.
And if you're curious to learn more,
Yes, absolutely.
we encourage you to visit their website
Mm-hmm.
and, take a look at their investor relations materials.
There's a lot of great information there.
Until next time.
Deep diving deep.
Diving deep.